they do lots of incredible things, but I think one of the most moving and amazing things that they do is these workshops that they run in secondary schools in the UK. And when I met them, I think it was at the dinner, the King Prize dinner, and we had a conversation, and I said, can you come to Kabafest? Bring your work, come to Kaduna, Northern Nigeria. You're not afraid. Good. Come, let's go. So we did everything possible to bring them here. And who were part of the workshop and who participated have said that they had an amazing time and they learned so much. So thank you very much for coming to Kaduna, to Kabafest. It's so admirable because we know what the kind of press we get. Not only Nigeria, but especially Northern Nigeria. And we know the realities. We know that it can be a bit difficult for people to want to come. So the fact that you came, you've conquered, means you have a really special place in my heart. And I look forward to working with you more. Thank you. So, where are those amazing people? I'm going to call them out. When I call them out, please let me ginger their swagger. So, Grace, come. You stand here. Where's the photographer? Wait, he's never around when you need him. Okay, yeah. Okay, is that angle good for you? Because I would like each of them to have a personal photograph they can take away. So actually, I think let's do it this way. Grace, if you go over there, right? Sorry. So when they come, present the certificate. If you can let the person stand here so they can get a photograph with you. So you deliver it, and then they can just smile at you, Zahida. That's all you get. Or we can alternate. You shake one, then you shake the next one. Okay. All right. So we're going to start with Umar Mohammed Usman. Typical Nigerian. See, he's not here. Okay, we move on to the next person. Nasara Clement. She's actually one of our volunteers. But, yes, good. Hold up your certificate. Look pretty. Good. Excellent. Excellent. Husseina Sufyan Ahmed. That's a lady that was asking difficult questions yesterday. Go and make your own film. Let's see the certificates. Well done. Well done. Thank you. So, did you have a good time? Good. Excellent. Ooh, sorry. All right. Justin Modubelu. Justin. He's not here yet. Aisha Aliu Bima. No? See, I like the people sitting over there, the way they're just clapping ready. Give them Zobo. Good. Yes. Miriam Isa. See, the ones over here are jealous now. So, no? Okay. Nabila Usman. Ah, this is a shame. Never mind. Hauwa Saleh Abubakar. There she is. She's also one of our volunteers. She didn't really come to volunteer. It's this workshop she came for. But it's okay. Thank you. Uzairu Uba Abdulaziz. No? Okay. Amau Marilia Suleiman. Not here. Adeyemi Olaide Abraham. No? Well, we got 3 out of 11. They will collect theirs at the office. Thank you so much, ladies. Please give them a round of applause. Wonderful. Thank you. 10 o'clock is clearly early for Kaduna people. I don't know. And especially when it rains. They've had catching a few more Z's this morning. So we're going to launch straight into the first event of the day, which is a panel discussion called In Search of Ourselves, New Nigerian Writing. I should have actually written New African Writing, I think. I do apologize for that. I don't know, I probably just wasn't getting much sleep around that time. So, and just so you know, they're here today, these young people. They approached me a few months ago, a young man called Basit, whom you'll meet in a second, to say that they wanted to publish this collection of new writing by African writers, but especially those who were exploring issues like fringe issues, I think. And I thought it was great. You know, I just thought, okay, they're putting a book together. I don't even care. Let's support them. So just find someone to give them some money, because you can't do these things without money. So it didn't quite work out the way that I'd wanted. And in the end, we had to find other sources of being able to support them. And they really wanted the book to be presented here and to be launched here. And I thought it was a brilliant thing to be able to bring some of these young people together who are doing amazing stuff on their own with very little support from our institutions. And I thought it would just be great to give them an opportunity to come and present their work and to present it to all of us. So this is why we have this particular panel. And I'm just so proud of them and what they've achieved. And I almost had in fact, I nearly fainted when I looked at the dedication and I realized that they had dedicated the collection to me. You know? What they don't know is that I sent it to all my friends immediately. To say, you see? Go and be your own festival director. No, but it was very touching, very moving, and I'm really, really grateful for that gesture. Very honored and feel very privileged. Thank you very much, Basit. So we're going to go straight in, and I'm going to start by introducing the host for this event, and that is no other than TJ Benson. Incredible writer this young man is. Now I can talk about the Kane Prize, but you know what? That story moved me. But you know, there were 4 of us and it's a democratic process. Yeah, I did everything to make sure it went to a Nigerian again. I'm joking, please don't tell them that. And on the panel, we have the curator, Basit Jamiu. And a contributor to this collection, a filmmaker. I didn't even know he was a writer, but I think I saw. Did you enter for Kane Prize too? Tell the truth. I thought that there was a familiar name there. Yes, Umar Turaki, filmmaker extraordinaire. We screened one of his movies, I think, 2 years ago at Turaki Festival, if I remember well. Very, very, very impressive. And the last person on the panel, obviously the most important, given that she's a woman, Hauwa Nuhu Shafi, also a contributor to the panel. So there they are. Can you test your mics, please, all of you? Just say, how handsome are you on a scale of 1 to 10? Say it into the mic. We want to record it. This mic is not working.
Testing.
Okay.
Good. Oh, yeah, talk.
How handsome I am? I think
Yeah.
I will give myself 5.
Okay, fair enough. That's modesty for you. Let's go on. Oh, look, be honest, TJ.
I'll answer a different question.
Eh?
I'll answer a different question.
You want a different question? Who's your favorite person in this room?
You, of course.
Hauwa, oh yeah. Is it true that you like Idris Elba?
No.
Okay, and you, Umar? I'm thinking, oh. Okay, Lagos or Abuja? Pick one.
Do I have to pick one?
Yes. Go on.
Abuja.
Okay. All right. Take it away, TJ.
Okay. Good morning, all. Beautiful Kaduna people. Kaduna is so beautiful. I have personal history here, so it's not. I don't take it for granted that I find myself here this morning. We don't have time. We don't have much time because Lola has taken my time, so I'll just dive into the introductions. And I'm ditching the introductions we have in this program so that I'll shake my people up a little. So I'll start from Umar, Turaki. Umar is actually a filmmaker who uses his filmmaking skills to cheat us in short story writing. Like, you know, he's amazing. I was honored to be with him on the SSDA 2016 anthology. Amazing writer. Hauwa Shafi, I have a story for Hauwa Shafi about her. In 2000, like 2-3 years ago, there was this peace slam thing where this man came and challenged her in this, we were gathered, and she was just 18 or so. And he said he was so sure that his poem was going to be better. I'm not going to call his name, and he's not here, so I'm safe. And she won him hands down. Her poem, she shared maybe a couple of poems then. It was so wonderful. And I started looking at her, following up her writing career. Basit here is the editor of Enkare Fiction, and he specializes in getting his short stories in places the rest of us, like we Nigerians, don't even get into. You have him in literally UK, you have him in all over the world. I respect you. So when he reached out to me last year, was it last year? Yeah, to tell me about this anthology, I knew it would be an honor to be part of it. So I'll just go straight into, and yeah, I'm also going to introduce Lola because she's also part of this anthology. She was just amazing and continues to be. What you do for African literature, I simply have no words. Thank you for being part of this. Okay, so, and this is the anthology. No need to even waste time. It's 3,000 copy, yeah? Because I'm going to start reading from, I'll just read a short excerpt from the work, and this is titled, There Are Numerous Ways to Find God by Afope Lolua Ojo. It's Easter, and Jesus has risen, but I only find God in the eyes of the boys I love. Now my love is a constantly giving thing, expecting nothing in return. I am face to face with the cross confronting my fate, its left hand, truth, its right hand, judgment. But if religion is the people who practice it, then I think I want to die before I catch myself judging another human, deciding that they are right or wrong by virtue of the things they believe. It's a conundrum. Empathize, but choose carefully those who you empathize with. Denounce those who belong to neither side of your carefully demarcated binaries. When I meet a new boy, what mom asks is if he loves the Lord. My spiteful mouth wants to say no, but he loves the God in himself, and he loves me. So what is this love thing? My even more spiteful mouth wants to say no, but does your husband love the Lord? I'll stop there. So this is by Afope. She is not here. But I will just go right into this session now. And my first question is for everyone, actually. In the introduction of this anthology by he calls us, this generation, the self-confessional generation. And I can agree because I remember things that you would want to keep in your diary when you are in secondary school. Right now, we just have it on our Facebook wall, just have it on our Twitter. Everybody just talks about things that you rather keep secrets. So people are more open these days, and there's the internet and other factors are coming to like play into this new telling of African stories, personal stories, not just fiction now. So I want to ask, what exactly are we doing when we write non-fiction? What are we looking for? Is it for the public? Is it really for the public? Because we have all kinds of stories here. Personally, I am naked in a bathtub in this anthology. I don't know why I put that out there. Lots of things, lots of personal stories going out there. So what are we trying to achieve? What exactly do you look for? What are you trying to achieve when you write non-fiction?
Hello, can you hear me right? I guess when you write nonfiction, what you intend to achieve is honesty. You intend to achieve honesty, and then you intend to achieve openness. Because I believe that the Selves Anthology, some of the pieces we have here, are therapeutic in nature. And the kind of pieces that you read, and then you find healing in them. The kind of healing you find in them is the kind of healing of knowing that you are not alone, knowing that as human beings, we are all struggling with one or two things. So, and in that way, if you read people, particularly African writers, particularly people that you actually look up to, that you feel that their whole life is perfect, and then you kind of read them, and then you feel that, in a way, they are also human. They also go through some things, they pass through some traumas, they have past experiences. In a way, knowing that you're not alone makes the experiences you have, in a way, therapeutic for you and makes it easy for you to move along with. So, Selves, it allows you to do something to help people heal themselves by you healing yourself too.
Okay, Hauwa, because I know you're a very private person, so when I saw your piece, I was like, okay.
Okay, so I'm going to start by saying John Green, who's one of my favorite writers ever, he wrote in his most recent book, Turtles All the Way Down, he said, "We humans are such language-based creatures that, in a way, we cannot know what we cannot name. So when you're writing nonfiction, you are putting a name to something. And the moment you put a name to something, it then becomes easier for you to deal with that thing. And I think the thing is, when you name something, you're giving that thing a responsibility to live up to that name. You are irrevocably admitting a powerlessness and surrender to that emotion. You are literally striking a before and after, because there is a phase before you named it, and there is a phase after you name it. Now, after you have named something, the difference is very clear. You're able to just spread your emotions on paper. You're able to just, everything achieves a certain amount of clarity to you, and it becomes easier for you to deal with it. And in writing creative nonfiction, I think you are both helping yourself and you're helping your readers, just as Basit said. Because it's quite important for people to know that they are not alone. Sometimes you're battling things and you think these things are unprecedented, but then you meet people, you listen to them, you read what they've written, and you suddenly realize you're actually not alone. And there is a certain kind of comfort that comes with knowing that you're not alone. You're not the only one who's going through these things. It then becomes, you become assured of the fact that the human condition is shared. So yeah, you literally, just like I said, you help yourself and you help other people. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Umar, why you are doing film, you're writing short stories. Why do you come and join us inside nonfiction?
I honestly had nothing to do with it because I was minding my own business, trying to make my films and everything, and Benson sent me an email, and I said yes, and here I am. you know. So this is all your fault, Basit.
I take the blame.
But I think for me, and again, you know, I honestly don't feel like the person to be answering this kind of question, you know, because I have never really considered. I was telling TJ the other day, I don't really consider myself a non-fiction person. And he was like, "Is that a disclaimer? You know, are you trying to like influence the questions I'm going to ask?" And I was like, "No, seriously," because when Basit came to me, and he, you know, and I honestly just saw it as an opportunity to try to understand something that had happened to me, you know, on a very personal level, and I think I buried it in so deep. And when it erupted in a way that I didn't understand, I still kind of pushed it away, you know. So him coming to say, okay, I want to curate a collection of essays, you know, personal essays. I thought, okay, maybe there's an opportunity. And, you know, one word that came up, you know, was vulnerability. So I find that there's an immediacy, you know, it's not like fiction where you can put something, it's like something is between you and the reader, you know, or the audience. This is a lot more direct. Like, it's not, you can't hide behind a character, you can't hide behind whatever. And I think there's a kind of boldness, you know, that you require for that, but also a vulnerability that is incredibly terrifying. And in terms of vulnerability, I think it's also I don't know, I think it's an incredibly liberating thing, yeah. You know, because speaking of selves, like you're giving yourself permission to be, you know, and you're not afraid of those parts of yourself that you're concealing. Suddenly it's like you have permission to bring them out, you know, and put it out there, and it's fine, you know, like, why suppress those parts of yourself? Because they are part of yourself. Anyway, I hope I've answered the question.
Yeah, you have. So you joined us because you like doing scary things. Okay. I'll read a portion from Hauwa Shafi. Her piece is titled "Of Violent Punctuations." Yeah? Okay, she read it by herself. Okay, this second paragraph, yeah? Okay, you don't have a copy there, right? Okay, yeah, just this paragraph and where it ends on the next page. Yeah, that last line, yeah.
The grief that Ma's death evoked carried the second form. When your younger sister called you that day after class to say that she had died, you were stunned into silence, a momentary choked silence, holding your phone to your ear long after the call had ended. You did not cry then in school, even as you leaned on a closed wall, crushed and internally distorted. You carried the shock and pain in your throats like a trapped scream and went home feeling bloated with things unnamed, pondering the fragility and unfairness of life, asking yourself, is this some dream? How can she die? Why would someone so widely and deeply loved die? But then again, why not?
Thank you. Our first applause, okay. Yeah, now, from that part, I was surprised. In fact, I felt slapped when I saw you. At first, you're saying, how can somebody so deeply love die, which is the question most we all ask. And then you ask, but then again, why not? I was like, wait, though. Because the audacity of that sentence, is it something that you find easier to do in writing, in nonfiction? Does writing, do you, because I don't know if you're able to have this conversation with the deceased person's husband. So, like, do you find it easier to deal with certain things in nonfiction that you might not be able to deal with when you talk?
I think it's easier for me to, for me to write nonfiction than it is to write fiction. But it's a lot more easier for me to put my fiction out there than it is for me to put the nonfiction out there. Because in nonfiction, I'm literally coming naked in the writing. Like, there is vulnerability, and just like Umar said, it's a terribly terrifying thing. So I was home that day after I got the call. I was home in school, and I was thinking I couldn't just wrap my head around why she would die. Like, this is someone who's so deeply loved, so widely loved. We all loved her so much, and then she just went and died. Why? But then I calmed down, and I was like, wait, why not? Does being widely or deeply loved absolve you of, does it make you immortal? Or, well, sure, it makes you immortal perhaps in the hearts of those who love you, but even those who love you will die one day. So why won't even you die, right? So at a point I was sure that I was getting carried away with my emotions. Like, how dare you ask why someone would die? But later, I confronted myself, and I saw that, well, that's not exactly a valid question. Emotionally, yes, it's a valid question, but logically, not exactly. So I asked, well, why not? And I struggled with that part. I wasn't sure whether or not I wanted that part in the piece. But okay, initially, what made me write the piece was, there was this time I was back home, and it was late at night. It was just after the death and everything, and my dad was in a terrible place at the time. He was still struggling with the loss. So he was in the living room. I was in my room. I kept waiting to hear the sound of the door to his room, like, close, so that I would know. So that I would know he had retired to go sleep. Because if he was still in the living room, it meant he was still brooding and all that. And my dad and I, we shared this very close connection. So I kept waiting, but I didn't hear it. So I thought, well, why not go to him? Perhaps he would talk or something. And I went to the living room, and his legs were crossed. He was sitting on his legs, and his hands were raised in the way that Muslims raise their hands when praying. And he was saying in a voice that was so fragile, it broke my heart, God, please be sufficient for me in this terrible time. And that just broke my heart, to see him so vulnerable, so human. And I sat with him, and he turned and he saw me, and he just started to pour everything out, how he had wept when the news came that she had died, how it had all been so terrible for him and everything. And later on, he felt so much better, but he had transferred his pain to me. And I had my own pain at the time, so it was more like I was carrying like a double portion of pain or something. So I thought, well, he poured it out and he feels better. Maybe I should pour mine out too. So, and there's this app I have on my phone. It's a diary. There are lots of them out there. So I started to write everything down there. I had no intention to publish it or anything. I was just writing. I was just unpacking. And then one day, Basit asked, like, what's up? What have you been up to? What have you been writing?
Basit.
So yeah, I was like, oh, I just lost my aunt and it's terrible. I've been writing about it. He was like, oh, can I see it? So I sent it to him, and he said, well, I'm putting together an anthology of creating nonfiction, and I would really love to have this piece. At first, I was shocked, like, like I had no intention of sharing this piece, and now you're asking for it for an anthology. But I thought about it, and I thought, well, why not? So I kept working on it. I kept expanding it and all that.
Okay, thank you. Don't worry, I'll start firing you questions soon, so be patient. Umar, please, could you read from the first paragraph of your, or you have your copy there? That's page 34, for those of you that have your copies. Nobody. Yeah, just the first paragraph.
Night, circa 11 p.m., Silver Spring, post-dinner, and this has never happened to you. You are crying in front of your sister and her husband. It is the kind of weeping that shudders your shoulders and shakes your core, and sound and water are gushing out of you in unstoppable torrents, and you know you are crying in front of your sister, and that you must look like a maladjusted, self-pitying adult, but you can't stop. You bury your face in your hot palms. Is this an attempt to hold it in? Because it can't be stoppered, and you have no idea why you are crying, why there is a rawness deep, deep inside you that has suddenly uncoiled itself, and here you are, unable to rein in your emotions, which have gate-crashed the scene. and you are angry at everything that happened, even though you tell yourself you are not, and you are angry with yourself for crying so shamefully in front of two adults.
Okay, so Mr. Umar, you used the word crying 4 or 5 times in one paragraph, and this story is about you. And I was very interested. I think that was an event. Are you comfortable having this episode of your life set aside? How do you deal with writing out vulnerable things? Do you feel, is it an uncomfortable thing for you to have this portion of you in everybody's hands? Because we are reading about you crying and crying and crying. I don't know. Like, when it comes to, I know you said this is your first time having your non-fiction work out there. So between then and now, how has been the reaction, responses to this piece? Because I know it was published on PDF, downloadable PDF online. How have you been comfortable with having your vulnerability out there? You mentioned it earlier, but is it a comfortable thing now that it's out there for you? How are you able to deal with it?
It's definitely not comfortable. You know, and for starters, like, so about crying, okay, just to correct an impression, I do have a blog which I kind of put some stuff up on, you know, and when I created that blog, it was supposed to be an exercise in vulnerability, but I honestly couldn't sustain it. So I kind of have pieces there, but this is, it goes way deeper, you know, in terms of in terms of things that have happened to me, and it was very uncomfortable in the beginning, but the responses I've gotten, you know, from the most unlikely places, on Twitter, you know, people message me on WhatsApp, quite at random, and I see that, and in a way I feel free, you know, I feel incredibly liberated, because I feel like I've been seen, you know, and I've been acknowledged, and that I've ministered to somebody, you know, in a way. And about crying, so when I was a kid, I used to cry a lot. You know, I was an easy crier when I was a boy, and I think it was something that brought a lot of shame to people around me, you know, and also to my parents. So I reached a point in my life where I felt, okay, why am I so weak? Why should I keep crying, you know, at the smallest things? And so I remember one time in school I was punished and I didn't cry. And it felt like a moment of victory because I felt like I had conquered.
Applause, please. Thank you.
I felt like I had conquered something. But then over the years, you know, I would reach out, certain things would happen to me and I would honestly want to cry, but I couldn't. And I don't know whether it was because I had mastered sort of, quote unquote, the act of not crying. But it was just not very easy to cry. And when this happened, like it completely blindsided me because it was a normal dinner table conversation that we were having. We didn't set out to talk about any deep stuff. We were just sort of doing a back and forth, and then suddenly, like, it just came out of nowhere. And it took me a while to kind of come to terms with that, you know, where was that coming from? So maybe that's why I just kept writing, crying all the way.
Okay, thank you. Basit, for years now, the only reputable books on non-fiction that we've had in this country, we have maybe Wole Soyinka's celebrated Demand Died, which we are familiar with. Then we had Biavanga, Winana's One Day I'll Write About This Place. And it's not a consistent thing having non-fiction work come out annually, or even like it's maybe once in a while. We get really good non-fiction once in a while. I know in Nigeria we have lots of non-fiction. In those cases, people saying, I didn't do this, or this is my side of the story. We have lots of accounts. Maybe we'll call them accounts now. And then we have launches, and then people come and drop money. But creative non-fiction, why now? Why is this a movement? I know between last year and this year, Catapult in New York has published a series of non-fiction, mind-blowing non-fiction pieces from Africans, mostly Nigerians. Everywhere you see Nigerians, I don't know. But really mind-blowing stuff. So is it a trend? Is it a new wave? What's going on?
Well, I guess that maybe a lot of people have found out that there is a lot of vacuum in that genre that needs to be explored. And I think it's trending now because people are more open to it. And then people are writing more good stuff through that genre. I remember that when the idea of this book came to me, and I informed my friend in between our conversation that I will like to compile a collection of creative nonfiction by African writers. And then my friend responded very calmly and said, Basit, I don't need to discourage you. I don't mean to discourage you, but nobody reads a collection of nonfiction right now. They don't care about it. They only care about short story anthologies or poetry anthology. And I said, well, man, I am going to compile a collection of creative nonfiction, and people are going to be interested in it the same way that they will be interested in short story anthologies and poetry.
Applause for him, please. And I also want to ask about security, because I think lots of people have written things here that I would frankly say are implicative, or issues that are ongoing in their lives or probably unresolved. Is it a concern? I know, right, it's okay, we don't have anyone that did any dangerous stuff here, but as the curator of this, I don't know how you view like this. I know some writers in the past have put out their non-fiction and then gotten the heat for it. So with this, have you thought about that when it comes to this anthology?
Well, when I was trying to compile this anthology, what came to me was two things. I wanted the writers to be able to write about how they feel, so that they, in a way, they can find it a little bit of openness. You know that when they write about how they feel about themselves, things that they wouldn't ordinarily want to tell anyone, in that way they will find freedom and find peace. Anyway, I want it to be very therapeutic. And I also want the readers, to read it, and then if they can relate with it in a way they feel that they are not alone. And I find a lot of, most of my friends will come to me, particularly female friends, and then they will tell me that they have been raped by family members. And then their parents ask them not to say it to the public. They shouldn't say it. They should keep it to themselves. And then that's the weight of keeping such thing in yourself is quite too much, that sometimes some of them want to commit suicide. And then they become suicidal, and some of them eventually commit that suicide and all of that. And I feel that if they know that they have such space where they can come and then write about how they feel, and then they can be able to pour their feelings, then in a way, it allows them to live their life and a little bit find some form of release in some of the traumas they are dealing with.
Okay, thank you. We're going to have one more reading. I just got a note. But before we go into that, I'll ask my final questions. How about in your piece, violent punctuations? By the way, I love the way you call it violent punctuations, because, yeah, violent punctuations in life. How do you know when to stop when you're writing a non-fiction piece? How do you carve out an ending? Because it's not like fiction where you know, okay, this is the starting point and then this is the end. You're writing about your life and you are still alive. You haven't died yet. Eh? So how do you know when to, I know you're a poet, maybe it's a poetic sensibility. How do you know this is where you are going to stop and then this is where you're starting from?
Okay, I think it's much more difficult to carve out an ending for a work of fiction, at least in my experience.
Wow.
Yes. So for creative nonfiction, it's much easier because you're unpacking, you're purging out the things you're feeling. So when it gets to a point that you feel that your work is done, you are as though you've unloaded everything that's inside of you. I always tell myself, all right, this is a good place to stop. Yeah, so it's much more easier for me with creative nonfiction. It comes with that fulfillment of knowing that, all right, you've unpacked enough, like you've purged yourself of all of the heavy emotions inside you.
Okay, this was a short masterclass, by the way. So the same for you, Umar, because you are a filmmaker and you use your filmmaking to cheat in short story writing. So did this also inform your how you carve out your piece, your nonfiction piece? Are you influenced by your filmmaking? I know we have conversations about that as to short story writing, but what about nonfiction?
I've honestly never thought about that because it almost feels like it just kind of pours out. But with this piece specifically, I started at the end, and I kind of just went around. So in terms of structure, I don't know where that came from, Was it Pulp Fiction? I don't know. Yeah, anyway.
Okay. Let's, please, someone should pass the mic to Ademola. He is also a contributor to this wonderful anthology. Oh, he's on his way. Okay. Okay. Basit, I think this question is for all of us, though. What do you think is the future of creative nonfiction in Nigeria? Emphasis on creative nonfiction.
Well, creative nonfiction in Nigeria or in Africa?
Africa, thank you, sorry. Because I've Nigerian arrogance, sorry.
Okay, I think so far, or right now, you talk about the trending that is happening right now.
Yeah.
I think people are beginning to take nonfiction more seriously. The same way, when you look at Africa, where we only talk about short stories, we talk about poetry, in a way that nonfiction are usually kind of sidelined, like they're not out of the conversation. So right now, we are here. We're not talking about short stories. We're not talking about novels or poetry. We are here talking about creative nonfiction.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, and I guess that's in a way the future looks bright for the creative nonfiction. I want a future whereby people can be open enough to write their creative nonfiction, and then they feel that people are going to read it the same way that they will actually grab a novel or short story or poetry. So
okay, thank you. And do you have any future plans for this Selves Anthology? I know it's supposed to be a continuous thing. Like, is there any plan for it?
Yeah, I intend to release more anthologies like this, but I was thinking that it was something that I would be able to do every 2 years, but okay. It took me 2.5 years to do this. So, and I don't know if I'm willing to go through this anytime soon. So I will make sure maybe we do it every five years. We release an anthology of this every five years.
Okay, so we have the wonderful Ademola. Please, a round of applause for him, please. He's part of the Book Buzz team. It's part of the reason we are here. So, just a paragraph from your work. Maybe you can sit down. Or okay, just okay.
Hi, good morning, everybody. So the piece is titled "Dying in Installments."
Dying in installments.
Okay, so I'll start from the beginning. I am a soulless, unemotional anomaly. There is something sinister about trying and failing every time to deny being what you are and struggling to conform to certain societal subscriptions so as not to appear different from the norm. Sometimes you are unsure of the kind of human that your being inhabits. You feel a nibbling pain, hating yourself for being the way you are. an annoying apparition different from the people around you. I do not know how to sustain affection. I do not know how to keep loving anyone, even when at the initial stage there's a bond that takes on the semblance of deep emotion. For me, love is a mirage with an expiry date, like a packet of cookies. Thank you.
Okay, who has questions? Okay, who is passing the mic? Let's start from Mr. Sadam Al-Fashi, whose piece is also in the anthology.
Yeah, hello everyone.
Okay, we should get to read his own too. Okay, come and take one paragraph. I think I should even choose the paragraph, so, but come and take. You're also reading yours.
I wanted to just ask a question.
We'll add for you. You are double people. Double. Finding Biavanga is the title of his piece. A paragraph.
Okay. The Binyavanga way is the hurricaning way, the thundering way, the lightning way.
Please start again. You so fast. I want them to enjoy what you are reading.
The Binyavanga way is the hurricaning way, the thundering way, the lightning way. Mike has perfected the art of it. So you just keep hurricaning, thundering, and lightning around Kaduna, talking with no time to breathe. I drive us through Kaduna, flying, crossing the river to the other side. But with Binya here, I now realize it is all on the same side. There is no difference. I see a singular city. The city never changes. Bernawa had the same three patterns. You could mistake it for the streets of Ungwarimi. The difference is only in our imagination, our interpretation in fear-themed memories.
So we can take his question now, yes?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask all the panelists, most of the pieces there were trying to be emotional. So is it a deliberate choice? I didn't go with the emotional choice of writing. I wanted to explore surroundings and laughter and happiness. So is it a deliberate choice to go into personal trauma, personal, I don't know, to liberate yourself from the traumas of your writing while writing nonfiction, or do you think you could also write about other things? I like writing about laughter, so I don't know about you guys.
I'm the host, so don't look at me. look at them. My piece is here, but I'm the host, so.
I mean, I definitely think there's a lot of room, you know, for what can exist within the walls of creative nonfiction. I remember some very fun pieces I have, you know, are about small things, and it's also like, you know, almost the same conversation that was had about fiction yesterday. You know, like, are there certain stories that you're allowed, you know, to write or not? And I think I remember reading Zadie Smith's Joy, you know, and that's such a delightful, you know, little observational piece, you know, of writing that just sheds so much light on small things. And anyway, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think a lot can exist within creative nonfiction. Yeah, and I think that the reason why most of the pieces in the book were emotional, like you said, is because it's like there is a kind of revolution right now happening in the African continent with creative nonfiction. We young writers are now deciding that we will not be silenced, we will not be ashamed of our emotions. We are going to talk about these things openly. Now, there comes a platform for us to do this thing, and we're like, okay, we've got to utilize this as much as we can. You write about laughter, of joy, of love. Yeah, it's beautiful. I write about it so a lot. We get a lot of that, and there is no shame in writing about that. But there seems to be a misconception or a misunderstanding that when you write about your personal traumas, it's shameful. Now, we are seeking to break that misconception. We are seeking to say it's not shameful. We are humans, and it's normal to feel these things. And we are refusing to keep quiet about them. We are going to write about them. We are going to talk about them. So, yeah, I think it's why most of the pieces there took the emotional route.
Okay. Was there any preference in selecting these pieces? Was there any preference for this sort of personal essays? I think to adapt his question to you.
Yeah, there were not. I was basically more particular about stories that were well written, and then they were personal, and then they could be anything, but then they should be of quality, and then they should have some poetic value to them.
Okay.
So,
okay. So next, who's asking the question? Don't have much time. I saw some hands there. Okay. Sufyan. Okay, Mike, who's?
Oh, okay. Should I go ahead?
Okay, but no, don't worry.
Well, I'm just quite impressed. The ignorance in our country when we talk about writers.
Sorry, may we know you so
Okay,
that maybe.
my name is Kayode.
Okay.
Yeah. So there is this ignorance in our country. Apologies to non-Nigerians here. Where when you talk about writers, the names you get are from the southern part of the country. And we just have this assumption that if it's not a Chidinma or a Shoyinka, you don't have, that we don't have writers. And I actually feel a sense of guilt, having these names, Hauwa, Umar, Basit, and listening to you, the quality, and I don't want to sound condescending, but I just think we should look inward. So the question, do you feel a sense that writers from the northern part of the country do not get the same exposure, the same opportunity to put their works out there? Do you feel, is there any challenge, and what can be done to change that perspective?
Yes.
You're ready. Okay.
There is a very heartbreaking, devastating stereotype about us from the north. I think everyone knows that. People are always surprised when they hear you speak. Are you sure you grew up in the north? Like, oh, really? You're studying law? Wow, I know you're going to get married when you get to 300 level. Your dad is going to make sure of that. I'm not exaggerating. These are actual questions people have asked me. Yeah, so I think it mostly comes from a place of ignorance, yeah. And I think what can be done about it is that people need to open their minds more. We need to read people more. I was talking to someone recently. She's guilty of this stereotyping and stuff. She's my friend. She's from the South. And she said she thinks that these stereotypes are perpetuated because there aren't enough writers from the North. And I just really flipped. I go angry. Because I know so many amazing writers here, like, who are doing amazing things. There is Hajara Husseini, there is Hauwa Saleh. There are just so many of us doing amazing things. And then this writer had not read Zainab Al-Khali.
Atrocity.
I mean, it's almost like, like, that's a tragedy. Like, you're ignorant and you're comfortable in that ignorance. Like, so I think people just need to open their minds more. They need to explore more. They don't, if you're going to read someone, if you're going to read a book, you shouldn't just walk into the bookstore searching for the names from the South or the West and all that. You should be open. Good writing is good writing, regardless of where it's coming from.
Is there round for applause? Yeah.
Can you all just tell us what state you're from? Just very quickly, I'm just curious.
Okay. Well, that was a shake table. Okay. what's
I'm from Kogi State.
Round of applause, please.
I'm partly from, my mom is from Plateau State. My father was from Niger State.
I'm from Niger State.
Yeah. So me, I'm the host. Okay. My dad is Cross River, Benue. My mom is Benue, Imo State. So it's hard, but yeah. And to add to what she's saying, I think in lots of this, there are lots of young people here, and I want to challenge us to travel. I think travel is something we don't do enough in the country. And if possible, to other parts of Africa also. If you travel to a new place, you get to know about their culture, you get to know about what's actually happening there. If you stay where you are, which is what happens to us a lot, you know, I think we just rely on school. You wait for your university to throw you to one part of the country, or you wait for NYSC. You wait for NYSC to throw you to another part of the country before you say, oh, okay, this exists. I remember going up in Abuja, but I actually felt the north was just Hausa. And I was in Abuja. But until I started, things concern me here and then Taraba State and some other places. And they have their indigenous languages, so many tongues, you know, and unique cultures that I was glad to be part of. So I recommend that we travel to other parts of the country and other parts of the world also. Thank you. I got my first applause. Wow. Yeah, Husseina, please give her a mic.
My name is Husseina Sufyan Ahmed. I have a comment and
An amazing writer, by the way.
question. My comment is on the fact that normally we know in Africa we have this natural, unconventional, but we feel is conventional norm that men are not allowed to cry and men are not allowed to feel pain. But the fact that even on this panel we have 2 men here that have non-fiction, not even 2 men, we have 4 men and just a single female that have a book on selves that talk about emotions, how you feel, like how you are going to help other people treat their own psychological trauma. It's really a big plus on you.
Thank you.
And I love that. Now, my question is to Dolapo. You're not on the panel, but my question is to you. Now, you gave your last line was, okay, let me ask the question first because...
He's not on panel, boy. Where is Dolapo? Is it Ademola?
Okay, Ademola. Okay, Demola, sorry.
And he's not on panel, I want to attack him, but okay, yeah. He read,
Okay, since the book is a non-fiction, how do you, like, control your emotions? Is it that you allow your emotions to control you when you are pouring down the words, or you control the emotions? Now, the reason why I ask this is this. Your last line, you said, love is a mirage with an expiry date, like a packet of cookies. Now, this love is something that is very broad. If you are to tell me it's a love between a man and a woman, I'm going to agree, yes, every love has an expiry date. But how do you balance it from the love of a mother to her child or a father to his child? Thank you.
yes!
Okay. Okay. Well, first, I was going to ask the same questions. I was going to.
Wow.
Say, I wanted to ask, like, I wanted to know if there was a certain point where. I was going to ask about commercialization of grief. Like, is there a point where you stop and because if you were not going to publish this in an anthology, would you have written the stories the same way? Like, would you have paid attention to all the details to create images, or would you have just poured out how you felt? Okay, so for me, I think it was, I wrote this without selves in mind, so I wrote an essay, and it was me, like, leading my emotions on a path, like I knew what I wanted to talk about, so it wasn't my emotions controlling me. I was basically doing the controlling, you get? So, yeah. So, about the love of a mother, that's quite...
Yeah, although I think love occurs to us differently. Like, the whole concept of a mother-child love, it's also because there are some... read about or you find women who don't feel the connection to that connection to their children they are supposed to feel. And I think Megan Ross, I think the last piece also covers that fixation that, okay, yes, once you're a mother, you're supposed to love your child. It doesn't happen biologically for everybody. I think love occurs to different person. And if his experience of love is expired cookies, who's to say? But then again, I'm the host too. I'm not supposed to be answering questions.
Okay. The piece talked about growing up and realizing that you are different from everybody else. Like, there's this, you keep hearing it repeatedly how you cannot be like your elder brothers. And so I had issues with my mom, like many issues. We still have issues. Sometimes we fight about my beards. Like, you get so, I love my mom, but there are sometimes that I wished that, some things were different. Like, basically, there's a part in the essay where I talked about how comparing between children sort of breeds resentment between siblings. So,
please, do we all agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there were times where I felt growing up, I felt less of a human being. Like, I was struggling to meet up with those requirements that my elder brothers had set up. Like, it was very difficult because I wasn't them and I was just different. I was like that. So, I mean, I love her, but there are times when I wish that she saw things more differently. Like, I still try to educate her, and yeah, but I really love her.
Round of applause for him, please. Just pass the mic to her. Give it to her. Behind you. I just have 10 minutes left.
Sorry, thank you very much. So, I mean, thank you for the question that you asked about the dominance of writers from the South in Nigerian writing. So I'm not based in Nigeria, and so in coming to Kaduna, I consciously wanted to find out more Hausa writers and Hausa writing, having read Season of Crimson Blossoms, which is fantastic.
Ooh,
so,
he's here, by the way.
so yeah. So my question to you and the panel, especially to Basit, the editor of this, are you the editor of the anthology?
Yeah, he's the curator and the editor.
So my question is about widening participation. What do you think, how do you think, what do you think can be done to increase the access and for people to find out more about northern writers in Nigeria? How can they be transferred to the South? What can we do sort of to flip the balance, to flip the script? I know it is a recurring theme throughout today. Every panel has been recurring. So I want to know what can be done. Like, it's the same country. How can we communicate with each other? And how can we migrate the North to the South?
Lovely question.
Yeah, I just wanted to say very quickly that I said this last night. This is why we have festivals like Kabafest and Ake Festival. This is the reason. This is why it's so important that people from the South, last year, the journalists we brought 5 of them, and they kept on telling me, one was almost in tears, saying, I cannot believe what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from northern Nigerians. That's a journalist. How can you not have that awareness? But this is why these festivals are so critical. And one of, my ambitions and goals when I'm organizing these ones, especially the ones in especially Kabafest, is to bring people from the South to come and experience northern Nigeria, but to also continuously and more prominently feature northern Nigerian voices. It's very important.
Okay, so
I guess that answers the question. But what we need is more institutions like this, more places where our voices can be heard. And then this like Selves Anthology is basically across Africa. It has been read by a lot of people. Regularly, people have read it and have been so moved by it. But I also noticed that this is the first African anthology that has more northern writers across. First anthology. Then people have been so moved by it in a way that it's kind of mind-blowing to me that I just kind of sit down and I think that, is this really is this happening that people could be so moved? I once had a female friend that read Sibongile Fisher's piece, The Miseducation of Gratitude. Then I saw her shaking and crying, and I just can't believe that and something could move someone to the point of shaking and crying. And then I was so moved that I was moved to tears, that if single piece could move someone to the extent of shaking violently from reading it. And then I feel so much that, yeah, as I've said, we need more institutions where our voices could be heard, and then where we can invite more people to.
Okay, there's somebody at the back. Okay, you want to say something because I have like 5 minutes or so.
Say something to add this question. He said he had the same question as her. I think privacy has very, very little space in creative nonfiction or in nonfiction writing, because that's why it's nonfiction. It's more like when you start writing nonfiction, you're basically undressing. You're like, okay, so you're presenting yourself bare on the page for people to read. So, and then vulnerability comes in. I understand vulnerability is a scary thing and all that, but I think that in nonfiction writing, it's very, very important. When you become vulnerable, people see you, and you see them too through their reactions to your writing. It's more accessible to them. It's more, it's easier for them to see themselves in that writing, because really, all of us, we're just all bundles of fragility and stuff. Yeah, so when you're able to...
Male and female.
Yeah, yes. So when you're able to just present yourself in that way without any censoring or anything, you're making a massive statement. It's almost like I said earlier, it's just like a revolution. Yeah.
Okay, and I think commercialization of grief is a panel on its own. Like it's an entirely different topic. But I would just say, commercial of grief. Yeah, I would just say though, especially for those who want to venture into nonfiction, I want to ask, what exactly is secret? What is secret? I was talking with a writer and editor at Debola Rayo at 2 years ago, and she was asking me, the last time you were in love, you told your lover this about you, that about you, you told them this stuff, that stuff. Are you still in love with that first person you loved? I said, no, we are not in a relationship. That means the person has found someone else. And as part of that person's unpacking process, they also have to unload your... So we just keep on sharing. So what exactly is secret? You know? So these are some of the things you should consider. And being more honest to yourself is how you can connect to or reach out to another person. Through nonfiction, we have been able to find ourselves brothers and kins of people, other parts of the world. Like I said, they have South Africans in this species, Bongile species, something else. And yeah, the person there, does he have the mic? Okay, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Salim Yunusa. My question is, yes, we are trying as much as possible to bring the South to the North, but I feel like we're bringing everything south to the north. Like, if you look at the poetry night we're going to have tomorrow, all of the poets are from the south. And we have amazing poets here in the north. There's going to be an open mic, but still we have poets here that can perform and their names can even stand on their own. We don't need them to be on the open mic only. And when you look at the whole situation about creativity and literary hubs in northern Nigeria, I think we are finding it twice as hard to create them. We have Poetic Wednesdays, Day of Literature in ABU, and so much more, but we send invites and people, they don't even want to come because it's not known. So we are finding it twice as hard to get out there. It's only established names that people go to, but they don't want to take that chance and give us a chance to read our stories and hear us and stuff like that.
I also want to comment on that briefly though. It doesn't seem like a question, but I want to talk. I was talking to a writer yesterday, and I believe she's an awesome writer, but I have not had access to her work, and of course there seems to be this insularity of the North, or writers writing in Hausa and then it not being accessible to the rest of the North. But Zainab Akali's The Virtuous Woman was read Nigeria-wide. I think everybody, I'm surprised you found somebody that doesn't know Zainab Akali. So I think I want to encourage you guys, because you have awesome work. I want to encourage you to in the case, I know, of course, the institutions probably are not yet set to have us out there, but also the internet, because if I go online, by population of work I could find online of northern writers, it might not be, especially on some certain platforms. This is my own personal observation. It's not, more public platforms, is not as much as I would find. And personally, my career started from sending my work to some of these online places. So I really want to encourage that we make more use of the internet also. I think right now, that's the easiest way to... I didn't have any institution to come out with my work, but it was if you make use of the internet, I think it will be easier, because I think there's the actual quality here. I've met wonderful stuff. I keep on pushing this one to submit our work to places. But you say? We don't even have much time. Okay, one question in the front here before I round up. Please, give him the mic.
Hi. I wanted to ask about the editing process, both from the curator and from the writers who are involved. I know a lot of hand-wringing about personal non-fiction and commercialization of grief and whatever, but I know this is not something that is new to us. It's experienced all over the world. But a lot of what you're doing gets perfected and fine-tuned at the editing process. both from the person editing you and from you writing. I mean, what you do with your grief or what you do with your experiences are yours, but how that comes off on the page is about who you are writing with and what they are doing to your writing. So I wanted to ask you about your experiences, not just with this book, but then with other people too, if you've written any other nonfiction, and how that has changed your process, if it has at all.
This is for Umar strictly, yes?
No, I said both the editors and the writers also.
I mean, in terms of writing, like writing the piece, for me, part of it wasn't just about like expunging these emotions that I was having. I was also very interested in the sentences, and the language, and I'll keep going back. So I was also concerned with matters of style, in that sense. And what I've come to sort of discover about creative nonfiction, is that I actually thought that before you start writing, like, unlike a story that you're sort of making up, and in that situation, you can kind of start blindly and just feel your way through until you get to the end. With creative nonfiction, I thought that you had to know what you were going to say. But my experience was that it was also just feeling my way through blindly, and I guess that's where the creative element of it comes in. So I was feeling my way through it, and at the end of the day, a lot of what came out surprised me. And I mean, I remember on this piece, the editing was, I had a couple of comments. There were certain things I was trying to do stylistically, and the editor would be like, this isn't really working, or this, Basit. It wasn't even, I think it was Umar, that sent some very helpful notes, on that. So I kind of took that out, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we don't have any much time, but I will call Lola for it. She has something for us.
Okay, so please let's first give them a round of applause. I'm very proud of these guys. So what I want to do something I've never done before. Is something new to Kabafest. We want to do one kind of bazaar, and I want to sell every book that is here today. Okay, how many of you are buying a copy? Put your hand up. You've bought yours. Okay, Americans, you have to buy 5. Standard. You had sponsors, give them 5 copies each. They will pay for them. Okay, who else is a sponsor here? And Kayode, you buy 2. You have come from London. Go and give Kayode. Where are my volunteers? Oh yeah, 2 to Kayode Ogundamisi. Right, who else? Where is Prof Jibrin? Give him 2. You buy 2. Let me see. Tony Khan, 3. Give him 3. Zanibo man has plenty money. Who else is here? Let me see. Oh, one here. Thank you. No, wait, please. Dr. Giwa is here. Give him 2. Professor Sule, 2 copies. Dash 1 to your students, 1 to your department. You do well. Well done. Oh yeah. Are you collecting the money? Just, hey, Simio, I'm coming. Who else? Adam Ibrahim is there. He won the LLNG. Give him 2 copies. He must buy. He can afford 5, but he's a writer. We are all poor. All of us are poor. Let me see. Who else do I know? This, how much is it? 3,000. Buki, Shoni Barrett, give her 2. She has bought good. Well done. Ayo, award-winning author, give her 1. 3,000. Mara, it's only stories you know how to tell. You buy books today, give her. Oh yeah, she has come from Ghana. Give her 1. Nana Dakoa. Who else do I know here? This is good. When you are a curator, you can oppress people. It's what I like. Where's Dami Ajay? Give him 2. He's a doctor. They have money. Auntie, if you can afford to come to Ake every Ake festival, you can buy. Give her 1, 2. Give this woman. Let's see. Who else is there? Kola. All the money you are making from writing and books. Your big visitor, Brandon Stanton from America. 2 copies. 2. No, you buy another one today. Very good. The one that's paining me is our first lady is not here because I would have made her by 10. But it's okay. So we've got rid of these ones. So just understand that if I see you today, is this your Sondu here? He's not here, okay. When he comes, there's a friend called your Sondu, reserve 3 for him. It's good. So throughout the day, I'll be expecting everyone to please dig deep and support these incredible young people. I'm so proud of them. So a big congratulations to Basit, to TJ, to Hauwa, and to Umar. Thank you so very much. Please, we can do better than that. Yes, yes, thank you. Should we just go straight into the next one? I'm very excited. Ooh, wait. Are you done?
Everybody disturb me. Don't disturb. Yeah,